wedged between a man who takes both armrests without asking and a stranger whose knee finds yours every time the seatbelt light flickers on. You printed your boarding pass at home because the airport kiosk charges a fee you can't justify. The gate agent doesn't look up when you hand it to her. She scans it, hands it back, says next, without saying next, just a tilt of her head toward the jet bridge. You board last, Group 9, the group they call when the flight attendants are already checking their watches. The overhead bins are full by row 12, yours is row 34. You carry your bag the length of the plane looking for space, and 3 people watch you struggle without moving their own bags an inch. A flight attendant finally shoves your duffel into a bin 2 rows back, not unkind, just fast, the way you handle something that's slowing down the line. No headphones offered, no blanket. The drink cart comes by once, and when you ask for a second cup of water, the flight attendant says, "She'll be right back," and isn't. You don't ask again. Somewhere over Ohio, the man next to you falls asleep on your shoulder for 11 minutes. You don't move. You don't want to wake him and become the problem. You land, and nobody says goodbye. You are luggage that walked itself off. Economy Plus. 6 inches more legroom. Nothing else changes, except now the gate agent says thank you when she scans your pass, a habit, not a warmth. You board in Group 4. The bins still fill before you get there, but you're not the last to know it. A flight attendant offers you a full can of soda instead of the little plastic cup. Small. You notice it because you weren't expecting it. Somewhere near your row, a man in a suit boards ahead of you, phone still in hand, and a flight attendant touches his arm and says, "Welcome back, so good to see you again." You don't know his name. Neither does she, not really, but the system does, and the system whispers it into her earpiece before he even reaches his seat. You watch the difference between recognizing someone and processing someone. You are still processed, efficiently now, but processed. Level 3, domestic first, short haul. You board in Group 2, and the man at the podium says the sentence you've never heard directed at you before, "Welcome aboard, sir." Not because he means it about you specifically, because the system told him to say it to anyone sitting in rows 1 through 4. The seat is wide enough that your elbow finds nothing but air. A flight attendant offers a pre-departure drink, water or orange juice, and asks your name before she asks your seat number. You tell her. She uses it twice more during the flight. It's not friendship, it's protocol. But it lands somewhere in your chest anyway, a small, warm confusion you don't examine too closely. The man next to you, a stranger, nods when you sit down. The nod of someone acknowledging a peer. You didn't do anything to earn the nod. You bought a seat. That was enough. When the plane lands, a flight attendant thanks you by name for flying with them today. You walk off first, or close to first, and nobody watches you struggle with an overhead bin because there was nothing to struggle with. Your bag fit. It always fits up here. Level 4, domestic first, elite status. The gate agent recognizes your name on the screen before you say a word. There is a note attached to your reservation. Something about a missed connection 8 months ago. An inconvenience the system remembers so a human doesn't have to apologize for it twice. She apologizes anyway, so sorry about last time, she says, and upgrades don't need to be requested anymore. They just appear, quietly the night before, an email that says you've been selected. You board first, before the wheelchairs, before the families with small children, a small violation of every instinct you have about who should go first, and nobody blinks. A flight attendant remembers you specifically, not from the system, from an actual flight 3 months ago, and asks about the connection you missed that day, whether you made the meeting. You're surprised she remembers? She's paid to remember? But it doesn't feel like being paid for. It feels like being known. The man next to you asks what you do. Not out of suspicion, out of a kind of professional curiosity, the assumption that whatever it is, it's worth knowing. Level 5, international business. You don't wait in a line anymore. There's a separate line, shorter, sometimes no line at all, just a woman with an iPad who greets you by name and walks you to security herself. The lounge before the flight has food you don't have to pay extra for, a shower if you want one, a bartender who remembers what you ordered last time, even though you don't remember telling him. On the plane, the seat becomes a different piece of furniture entirely, something closer to a small room than a chair. A flight attendant introduces herself before takeoff, gives you her name like it's a gift, tells you to let her know if you need anything at all during the flight, and means it in a way that feels almost uncomfortable because you're not used to being the one who is served without asking. The man across the aisle, another stranger in another suit, doesn't ask what you do. He assumes he already knows the shape of it, some version of importance, and instead asks where you're headed, small talk between equals. You realize somewhere over the ocean that nobody on this side of the curtain looks tired the way people look tired in 34E. Not because their lives are easier, because the system has decided their comfort is worth protecting, and comfort protected long enough starts to look like ease. Level 6. Private aviation. There is no gate, there is no boarding group. There is a small terminal with your name already on a screen, a car that meets you on the tarmac, a pilot who steps out to shake your hand before you've said a word. The flight attendant, if there's a flight attendant at all, asks what you'd like to eat as though the answer could be anything, and sometimes it can. Nobody scans your bag for size. Nobody tells you where to sit. You choose. There is no line, because a line requires more than one person waiting, and you are never waiting anymore. You are the reason the plane leaves when it leaves. Somewhere at 39,000 feet, alone in a cabin built for 12, you think about a middle seat you sat in once, a stranger's knee against yours, a flight attendant who never came back with your water. You could still fly that way. You have the money to fly any way you want, but you never will again. Not because you can't, because you've forgotten how to wait in a line you no longer have to stand in. You land somewhere quiet, no jet bridge, no crowd, no group number called over an intercom. Just a door that opens onto a tarmac, a man holding a sign with your name on it, and behind you, the empty cabin, the seat still warm. Somewhere right now, someone is folded into 34E, knee against a stranger's knee, waiting for a second cup of water that isn't coming. She isn't invisible because she did something wrong. She's invisible because the system was built to notice people in a specific order, and her name isn't on the list yet. You were her once. You still remember exactly what it felt like to be handled instead of served, processed instead of known. The plane doesn't change. The seats don't change. What changes is which version of you gets to walk on first and which version gets called last, Group 9. When the flight attendants are already checking their watches,